Right now, the reigning World Series champs at odds with the Trump administration after they say federal agents showed up at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers say ICE agents showed up asking to use their parking lots, but the Dodgers turned them away, concerned that they were going to do a raid. But the Department of Homeland Security says those agents were not from ICE, and they say this wasn't related to the immigration crackdown that's roiled Los Angeles and sparked protests since earlier this month. So how do Americans feel about this back and forth over the administration's immigration policies? CNN's Harry Enten, our data guru, is running the numbers for us this morning. Where are we?
Where are we? Well, I think we can say that Donald Trump has lost the political battle when it comes to what has happened out in Los Angeles. Donald Trump's net approval rating on the Los Angeles protest. Look at this. Overall, way underwater at minus 15 points. How about among independents or those who don't identify with either major party? Way even lower. Look at that, minus 24 points on the net approval rating. And of course, this is happening on what should be one of Donald Trump's, in fact, the best issue for Donald Trump, immigration. And yet, when it comes to these Los Angeles protests, 15 points underwater overall and 24 points underwater among independents. No good.
What is the broader view of how Trump is acting and what he's doing when it comes to these arrests of immigrants?
Right. So, you see these numbers with concern to the Los Angeles protests, but let's widen it out a little bit. And I think this sort of paints a picture for you in understanding why Donald Trump's net approval rating on the Los Angeles protests are as low as they are. Take a look. Trump and immigrant arrests. He's gone too far. That's the winner here, 49%. Not too far, only 40%. So you got a 9-point lead here. And again, among those independents or other category, you see 51% of them say Trump's gone too far. And what's so important to note is that this poll was taken after the Los Angeles protests started. So this takes into account everything that's gone on in Los Angeles. At this particular point, if the protesters' idea was to focus the attention on Donald Trump and bring attention to his immigration policies and bring attention to the arrests that have been occurring of immigrants, it seems to me that those protests have been successful because you see here, 49% say Trump's gone too far when it comes to the immigrant arrests, compared to just 40% who say he's not gone too far. And you don't have to be a mathematical genius to know 49% is larger than 40%.
By quite a bit. All right. How are people feeling, Americans in general, about ICE in general as they're seeing what has been happening across the country, but specifically in Los Angeles?
Yeah, okay, so let's take a look here, right? More ICE raids at workplaces. These workplaces where immigrants perhaps are here illegally are working. Look, 45% approve. But again, what's the winner here? 54%. 54% disapprove of the idea of more ICE arrests. And this, again, goes to what these protests were all about in the first place, these ICE arrests at work. And it does seem, again, that the American people are with the protesters on this. You see here the majority saying that they disapprove of more ICE raids at workplaces. And I think it's so important to note, ICE has historically actually been rated fairly favorably, but their favorable ratings have been going down as these raids have been going up.
Yeah, and this is one of the biggest issues that Donald Trump, it was like the second most important issue that Donald Trump won the election on,
That's
which is
right.
immigration.
This is his core issue, and he's losing on his core issue at this point. Again, he is losing in these protests.
All right. Thank you so much, Harry Enten, for all those numbers and getting us through them as you always do.
Well, we got major breaking news overnight out of California. Well, at least I was sleeping. A federal appeals court ruled that President Trump can keep control of California's National Guard in Los Angeles for now. The three-judge panel rejected a lower court's order for the president to return control of the Guardsmen to California Governor Gavin Newsom. With us now, CNN senior legal analyst, former federal and state prosecutor Ellie Honig. Counselor, thanks so much for being with us. So what did this three-judge panel say the president can do?
John, so this is a win for the Trump administration, a setback for Gavin Newsom in the state of California. The core holding here is that the courts do have a role, but a very limited one, in reviewing the president's decision to deploy the National Guard. The courts basically said, we, the courts, cannot reverse the president simply because we might disagree. We have to give the president, quote, broad deference, meaning we have to let the president do what he wants unless he has done something that is patently absurd or taken in bad faith. And then the court applied that very broad deference to this case, and they found that, well, one of the reasons Donald Trump gave for deploying the National Guard is it's necessary to enforce federal laws, and the Court of Appeals said that's reasonable, that's within his power, therefore the power remains with the president to deploy the National Guard as he has done here.
He can use them, in theory, in this case, to protect ICE agents during apprehensions and to protect federal buildings. Is it clear in this ruling how much more power the National Guard can have on the streets? Say, can they be involved in normal policing activity?
So, John, that's exactly what's going to be discussed today. There's another hearing in this same case back down at the district court, back down at the trial court level. And the question you just raised is going to be the exact question the parties are discussing, which is what exactly can the National Guard do and not do? Now, traditionally, and under longstanding laws of this country, the military, including the National Guard, cannot engage in law enforcement functions. They cannot make arrests. They cannot engage in search and seizures or interrogations unless the president invokes the Insurrection Act, which he has not done here. And so the key question today is, well, can the National Guard keep perimeters around federal buildings? Clearly, yes. The more contentious question is, can the National Guard go out to arrest scenes with ICE agents and sort of form a perimeter to protect them while they're making arrests? So the judge today and the parties are going to try to hash out where those lines are.
Now, again, this is no doubt about it. This was a big win for the Trump administration here, in that the National Guard can be used in the way they are being used in Los Angeles right now, or have been over the last week. Things have died down there. California, how likely are they to appeal this, either to the full Ninth Circuit or the Supreme Court?
If I was in California's legal position here, I would tell the governor, you don't want to appeal this. You don't want to bring this up to the Supreme Court. Yes, you have the option to ask them to take it. That's your sort of last best chance here. But I think you're going to lose, California. I think if you look at this opinion, it was a 3-0 unanimous opinion from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. You had 2 Trump appointees and a Biden appointee on that court. I don't see any way any of the 6 conservatives on the Supreme Court say, sure, a trial-level district judge can overrule the president on this issue just because he disagrees. I even think some of the liberals might join with the conservatives on this, as we saw with the Biden appointee. So it's an interesting strategic decision. If they do bring it up to the Supreme Court, California, and if the Supreme Court rules again in favor of the Trump administration, then that's going to be nationwide binding, an even bigger loss for California.
Might be possible the president actually expands his powers even more than they are already in that case. Ellie Honig, thank you so much for explaining it so well. Appreciate it.
Federal agents gathered outside Dodger Stadium hours before last night's game against San Diego. You could see the response. Protesters quickly rushed to the area, began chanting anti-ICE slogans. Then at that point, the Dodgers posted on X that ICE had come to the stadium and requested access to the grounds, a request the team says it denied. Then that sparks this back and forth online, ICE officials tweeting back, false, we were never there. Turns out it may have been Customs and Border Patrol with car problems.
Our people are under attack. And the largest economic engine in this area is silent. Wake up! Do better!
So I think that even though DHS, and we can show you this, sent out a tweet saying, look, this has nothing to do with the Dodgers, these vehicles here for this reason or that reason, it is clear they are not trusted, okay? It is very clear when you see this response. So I don't know who wants to take this on first.
Well, the Dodgers also aren't trusted, Hadi, because,
what do you mean?
Well, the Latino community there is frustrated that the Dodgers have not been more vocal in support of their efforts. And so you have a situation where I think the sports franchise just trying to balance what its fan base ultimately wants. You have those who wanted to take a political position, and then you have those who would prefer that it probably just sticks to sports.
I mean, this is the real problem of this era. There was a lot of lessons learned during 2020 and the protests against the George Floyd murder. And some took the message that, hey, we went too far and we want to pull back. And some took the message that actually we need to stand by our values. And it looks like the Dodgers hasn't decided which team they're on yet. And that is where the Latino community is trying to pressure them. You know, at the end of the day, what the Dodgers do, what they don't do, you know, they are a homegrown team, and there is a big Latino community there, and those Latinos are not happy.
In the meantime, Dodgers star Kike Hernandez posted this on Instagram. I'm saddened and infuriated by what's happening in our country. This is my second home, and I cannot stand to see our community being violated, profiled, abused, and ripped apart. Do you think more people might speak out?
I think it is a good thing that people are speaking out, because at the end of the day, what you're seeing happen in LA and cities across the country are people are protesting these, ICE raids, which are tearing apart communities. I mean, going into restaurants, daycare centers, schools, tearing people out of their jobs. that is not the way to enforce the laws. And I think what's also, especially in LA, you're seeing such heightened tensions with the National Guard being there. And, you know, the governor of the state didn't even request the National Guard to come in. So tensions are so high that I think people are also frustrated when an institution like the Dodgers is staying silent.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear them talking about it being an economic engine, et cetera, really laying into them in the way Lulu's talking about.